All right. Hello, everybody. This is our presentation. The topic is on the right to exercise personal liberties versus the need for habilitation. We are going to start off with some introductions. My name is Olivia Baumgartner. I'm going to be the mediator for this presentation. I've been in the field of ABA for about 3.5 years, and I'm currently working as a BTT for my company. Right now, I work mostly with early intervention kiddos, but I have worked up with clients up to the age of 16. This is my 4th semester in the ABA master's program at Ball State, so I only have one more semester to go.
Hi everyone, my name is Sahai Lewis. I'll be representing the need for habilitation. As of now, I currently work as a career coach, helping assist youth between the ages of 16 and 24 years old locate employment and educational opportunities. As a career coach, I understand the value of teaching the lifelong skills needed to support individuals in successfully caring for themselves, hence the need for habilitation. However, I do have experience with all age groups, previously working in a daycare facility, homeless shelter, and with after-school programs. I currently hold a bachelor's degree in psychology while pursuing my master's degree in ABA here at BSU. After successful completion of all coursework, I plan to graduate and jumpstart my future career as a BCBA.
Hi, I'm Toby Emmons, and I will be representing the need for rehabilitation side as well. I work in a therapeutic day school for children with autism and provide school-based ABA therapy to them. And all my clients are under 6 years old, and most of my experience is working with early intervention. I'm in my 3rd semester at BSU and working towards my master's degree in ABA and plan to become a BCB after I graduate as well.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Brown. I will be representing the right to exercise personal liberties. I'm currently working with kids who are diagnosed with ASD between the ages of 2 to 21. I provide the ABA treatments to these children and have been for 3 years. I've experienced working with children of all ages due to previous jobs such as daycare and teaching assistants. I hold a bachelor's degree in integrated studies with an emphasis in child development. I'm in my 4th semester at BSU working towards getting my master's degree in ABA. After graduation, I will continue working with children with ASD as a board-certified behavior analysis.
Hi guys, my name is Cole Carvalho, and I will be representing the side of personal liberties and the right to exercise those personal liberties. I'm currently an RBT and I've been in the field for 3 years. I have a wide range of experience going from clinical settings, leisure skill teachings, and vocational setting. I'm currently in my 1st semester at Ball State and looking forward to learning and accumulating knowledge throughout this course and in the hopes of pursuing my goal of becoming a BCBA.
Okay, now we are going to dive into the introductions to the topics. Okay, so first off, we have the right to exercise personal liberties. An overview of this topic is that a person with intellectual disabilities should have the same rights that a person without intellectual disabilities has when it comes to making decisions that impact their own life. So an overview of the pros of this side are that everybody has equal rights in making decisions that impact their life, and a person with intellectual disability should be no excuse to this, or exception to this, sorry. So an overview of the cons to this side are that those with intellectual disabilities might not be aware of the consequences to their choices, and someone else who can see clearly for this person should be making or at least guiding choices for them. So the next side of this debate is the need for habilitation. This is that a person with intellectual disabilities should receive services to help them live in more independently and face less negative consequences of their actions that they might not be aware of. So the pros for this side include those with intellectual disabilities should not be able to make their own decisions and should be in programs to help them live as independently as possible. And an overview of the cons for this side is that everybody, including those with intellectual disabilities, should have the right to make decisions for themselves. And people without intellectual disabilities sometimes make poor decisions. So why aren't others allowed to experience this as well? All right, now we are going to dive into the debate.
Personal liberties include freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and other rights guaranteed by the Constitution. However, it can be argued that they are more basic, such as freedoms to be alone, make choices, and do what one pleases. A few reasons why we have rights to exercise personal liberties is respect for one's autonomy, following ethics standards produced by the board, improving one's quality of life, and following one's preference.
Whoa, I'm sorry, guys. Habilitation was given the definition in Applied Behavior Analysis by Cooper, 2020. The degree to which the person's repertoire maximizes short and long-term reinforcers for the individual and for others, minimizes short and long-term punishers. So this definition is a little confusing for people that might not be familiar with ABA terms. So in other words, according to Bannerman, Sheldon, Sherman, Harchick, in an article they wrote in 1990, habilitation can be defined as teaching the skills for individuals to live as independently as possible. A few reasons why there is a need for habilitation is that it enhances those daily functional living skills, that is, and it helps individuals live more independently. Those are the main reasons why we would want to teach habilitation. It helps improve individuals' skill sets when it pertains to daily living, and it helps individuals receive services and daily support in a minimally restricted environment.
Why should we have personal liberties? It's basic human rights. According to the Merriam-Webster website, personal liberties is defined as the freedom of the individual to do as he pleases, limited only by the authority of politically organized society to regulate his or her action to secure the public health, safety, or morals of other recognized social interests. Discriminating based on disabilities has been made illegal. In enacting the ADA, Congress recognized that physical and mental disabilities in no way diminish a person's right to fully participate in all aspects of society. It is the right to the security for the individual. Often the people with disabilities are subject to practices that include some form of restraint, include mechanical restraint, physical restraint, chemical restraint, seclusion, and detention. So personal liberties stops those. Everyone has the right to choose, including those with developmental disabilities. Personal liberties also include the right to security. This includes security over one's body. Nobody can touch it without consent. Example, medical laws passed needing consent to treat, operate, and so forth. Every person has a right to determine what shall be done with his or her body. The common law provides that any touching of the body without consent, unless authorized, justified, or excused by law, constitutes trespass. Personal liberties started laws as early as the 1780s. Michigan passed a law about personal liberties, which states an act to protect the rights and liberties of the people of the state. In ABA, we also need consent or assent according to our ethical code. This helps make sure the client or stakeholders are aware of course of treatment and are able to agree upon it. The right to choose preferred activities and make decisions about one's own behavior and participate in goal setting for the intervention. As you can see, there are different ways that we can include individual liberty for others, including the freedom of speech, being a good friend, building relationships. These are all things that we are allowed to do as oneself.
For a more ethical perspective, Ethics Code 209 states that involving clients and stakeholders as behavior analysis, make appropriate efforts to involve clients and relevant stakeholders throughout the service of a relationship. This means that we as behavior analysts have an obligation, an ethical obligation to incorporate these personal liberties into our teachings and interventions. Also, Bannerman, 1990 states that clients at every functioning level should be given opportunities to make choices in their residential and work settings within and between scheduled activities. This leads to a more fulfilling life, and when individuals have personal control and autonomy, it leads to the quality of their life better. Also, from Avalon 2015, it states that, however, there is no research to date indicating the extent to which individuals who are certified, that being BCBAs, to the codes of ethical guidelines or ethical decision-making in the day-to-day work of a certified behavior analyst, meaning that as behavior analysts, we are not being checked day to day, hopefully by peers, into our ethical decision-making.
I will be sharing some reasons why there's a need for habilitation. To start, there are several laws and regulations in place to support individuals with disabilities and their need for habilitation, such as the class action suit of Wyatt v. Stickney, the Developmental Disabilities Act, and Developmental Disabilities Waivers. To start, in a class action suit of Wyatt v. Stickney, it was decided that in an Alabama court, people with all different kinds of disabilities had a right to receive habilitation so they could join society again. This just goes to show that there is a fight for those with disabilities to have habilitation services and a need for it. The Developmental Disabilities Act is an act that provides federal financial assistance to states and public and non-profit agencies to support community-based delivery of services to persons with developmental disabilities. And the aim of this act is to help individuals with developmental disabilities maximize their potential through increased independence, productivity, inclusion, and integration into the community. So it's an act that provides some funding to agencies, states, and community-based services to provide those habilitation services so that people with disabilities can be more included in the community, in schools, and things like that. Developmental disabilities waivers these waivers are made to provide person-centered, community-oriented support to individuals, and they provide funding to the services kind of protected by this Developmental Disabilities Act. So according to page 2017, when you receive and accept a waiver, you are choosing to have people support you in your home and in your community instead of in a nursing home or other institution. So basically, the point of applying for these waivers is to apply for habilitation services so that these individuals can live a more independent lifestyle. DD waivers set up funding and supports for individuals with disabilities. However, you must apply for eligibility, and a lot of the time, this eligibility includes habilitation, which, again, is a reason why habilitation is so needed. So because a lot of these individuals cannot apply for funding and supports like this unless they have those services embedded into their programs. These are some examples I pulled from the Minnesota Department of Human Services website. And these are the rules set in place by the state of Minnesota on how to be eligible for a DD waiver. I really like how they defined habilitation here. And it says it's designed to help people with developmental disabilities develop, maintain, and improve self-help, socialization, and adaptive skills necessary to live successfully in their home and the community. So it doesn't just target those functional living skills, but also those socialization and adaptive skills as well. This is more on the state of Minnesota and their laws here. I just need to move my face over so I can see it a little bit better. Anyways, it gives some examples here of kind of those habilitation services and what would meet the criteria to be eligible for a waiver like this. It goes over, again, those habilitation services that would count. And it further proves the need for habilitation.
So some of the personal liberties pros are respect for one's autonomy, meaning that they have control over their body, following ethics standard produced by the board. The BACB board has talked about needing assent for being able to provide any sort of treatment for these individuals. This improving one's quality of life and following one's preference, meaning that they have a way to have a say in what is going on. We're not doing things for them, we're doing things with them. With habilitation, the individuals have less control over their daily lives. They're told what they need to do. The goals are decided for the individual. The daily schedules are planned for the individual ahead of time to help them meet their goals. With personal liberties, like I said, it's up to the client. We do what the client wants, and it can restrict individuals' personal liberties.
Scope of competency. This is a big topic. At what point does an individual deem another individual to have the ability to choose or have autonomy over their own life? Practicing within the scope of competence behavior analysis practice only within their identified scope of competence. But as we talked about earlier, from our quote from Avalon, there is no research to date indicating that there is an extent to which individuals who are certified refer to codes to guide ethical decision making on a day-to-day work basis. So that just means that day-to-day, no one is being checked in on to see if they are practicing in this scope, and the need for those personal liberties should outweigh the need for habilitation.
Well, yes, clients should have a choice, but through habilitation, we can teach them how to choose. People who do not have a repertoire of skills and who not understand the consequences of their behavior require intensive teaching in these areas before allowed to choose. Clients may not have the ability to make appropriate choices or make choices in general. We can teach clients a variety of skills to be able to choose from. Examples, leisure skills and activities. Some clients may be having trouble or just need assistance, and that's where the need for habilitation comes in. We just help them, guide them towards that correct choice, or just guide them to make a decision overall. Service providers should emphasize teaching independent living skills and other functional behaviors that are preferred by the client. This will equip clients with a repertoire of appropriate as well as preferred behaviors from which to make choices. Through habilitation, we can add to a client's skill set, which increases the number of choices they can make. Habilitation can also be supported by the BACB Ethics Code for Behavior Analysts. 2.1. Providing effective treatment states, behavior analysts prioritize clients' rights and needs in service delivery. 2.9, involving clients and stakeholders states, behavior analysts make appropriate efforts to involve clients and relevant stakeholders throughout the service relationship. We do want to maintain that relationship by also making sure the client is doing things that they like to do, but having a schedule overall is not seen as a bad thing just because we're helping assist the client, and then the client can be able to go on and make their own schedules eventually.
So the response to you guys, the BACB code 2.11 states, behavior analysts responsible for knowing about and complying with all conditions under which they are required to obtain informed consent from client, stakeholders, etc. They are responsible for obtaining assent from the clients, meaning that we need to make sure that the clients are okay with what we're doing. Gaining assent is an important part of respecting the personal liberties of the individual, because we don't want to just go in and force them to do what we think they need to be doing. Planning out how the therapy will go and what the goals look like takes away the individual's right to know what is going on. They should have a say in what is happening with their therapy.
These two quotes from Bannerman, 1990, also support this case in that choice making is not often taught. In theory, it is taught sometimes, but the assert that our profession has focused on choice making as a permissible activity rather than as a teaching target. Often choice making for an individual is not often taught. And that also goes into that the opportunities for choice are not often given, and the pressure to meet regulatory standards may cause some service providers to put too much emphasis on quantity and scheduling of abilitative activities, meaning that sometimes there are standards and there's pressure given onto these behavior analysts to meet certain goals and standards that they are not, often giving that enough time to choice making for our individuals.
Well, our response to personal liberty side is that daily schedules and goals are made with clients and stakeholders with the idea to give the client the best possible life. Sometimes clients may be too young to understand, or sometimes you have to think of the severity of each case. And this is supported by the Ethics Standard 2.9 involving clients and stakeholders. The goal of habilitation is to increase functional living skills so that the clients can have more access to choice and more understanding of their personal liberties. Habilitation can increase client independence, and overall, that is the goal, to help them live more independent.
Okay, so this is our conclusion. As a group, we feel that these two topics are very situational and individualized. This means that on one hand, a person with an intellectual disability may not be able to see the consequence of their choices clearly, and that could put them into danger, which obviously we don't want. And then on the other hand, this situation might not be dangerous and it could serve as a good learning opportunity for the individual. So some things that we have learned. The first thing is that there are a lot of factors that determine what side a person may take on this debate. These things might include their cultural differences, their socioeconomic status, the ethics of the situation. Like we said before, this topic is very situational and individualized. Another thing that could have an impact in this is the person's learning history and more. So then we have the power of choice. This is also something else that we learned. So sometimes people are going to think that it's one topic over the other and that's it. And then sometimes it's going to be a combination of these two topics and both sides are okay. Again, like I said before, it's very individualized and situational. So. All right. Now we are going to be taking questions from our audience. The first question is, what if a client cannot give consent? So this could be if they're nonverbal or too young. What would you consider this? Would you consider this unethical to provide habilitation services?
If they're too young, we generally go and ask the parents anyways. And so I feel like it might cross the line for habilitation services, but I also think that it would lead more towards the personal liberties because we're allowing them to have a say in what we're doing a little bit, and the parents are more aware of what's going on.
Yeah, but however, according to the BACB Ethics Code 211, obtaining informed consent, behavior analysts are required to obtain that consent or assent in this situation, which if we got that assent from the individuals, we could consider providing those habilitation services as well. So in
Okay.
that case, it wouldn't be unethical.
to follow up that question then, if they're too young, then how can they provide assent?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull a definition here from the Ethics Code, and it defines assent as a vocal or non-vocal verbal behavior that can be taken to indicate willingness to participate. So, with that definition, we can consider behavior communication here, and that can help guide us into if the individual would like to participate or not.
Kelsey, this question is for you. Have you ever had a client not participate in the intervention that you provided based off the parent's response?
Oh, absolutely. I've had to modify what I've done with my clients based on what parents want. For example, I have a client who is bilingual, and mom has requested that we teach the child English, but that we also incorporate some of the Portuguese that they have in their house. And so I am not bilingual at all. And so I've had to figure out ways to work around that and help the child be able to still have that Portuguese in their repertoire while still teaching them English. And so it just has been, if they're willing to come and work with me, then I let them work with me. And if they are pushing away and running off, then I also allow that freedom to kind of back off a little bit.
All right, great debate, you guys. So the next question is, how would you go about treating a client who is engaging in certain behaviors when working on habilitation skills?
I would say, although we are arguing for this need for rehabilitation, clients still have a right to their personal liberties. I'm not going to deny that. And so they always have a choice to stop services at any time. So as behavior analysts, we again are viewing some behaviors, communication. And if clients are engaging in behaviors that are telling us to stop or to like, no, I don't want to do this. Again, going back to assent, we would probably stop that, reconsider what we're doing, analyze it, and see how can we make this more engaging, or how can we make this in a way that the client will want to participate.
So I have
Sorry, go ahead.
so I have a client who nonverbal and will rarely use device and will engage in certain behaviors. How do we provide adequate services for that client when we can't even get them to communicate with us fully?
I think we can go into those functional living skills of maybe we're teaching them functional communication training in a scenario like that. And we could collaborate with an SLP on the caseload and come up with some ways how to increase that communication, which again, communication is a functional living skill. So we can argue that communication is a habilitation.
How would we make that work with the habilitation skills?
I just think it's important in general just to consider our age group that we are targeting and servicing, just because something that might be work for one age group might not work for another. So just how we were talking about the young adults and then the children, what might work for the child might not work for the young adult. So we do have to consider the age group we are targeting and just have a certain level of patience and go back and review things to make sure we are doing the best or doing what's best for our client. Good question, Kelsey.
All right. Next question is, should clients have any say in what skills they are able to learn through habilitation services?
I believe absolutely yes. We have an ethical obligation to allow our students to have a say in what they want to get better at and skills they want to learn. Ethics Code 2.09 talks about involving clients and stakeholders in selecting goals and selecting assessments. So we definitely should always involve the client in decision making on the skills that they will learn, because at the end of the day, it will ultimately be changing their lives.
Okay, Cole, I have a question for you. Doesn't that kind of cross the line into personal liberties though?
It definitely does. But if the client is part of the collaborative effort in having the goals, and I think that is also respecting their personal liberties.
I think it's also important, as Cole mentioned, just because you have to think of certain age groups. And if we're dealing with someone who's 18, who just became a legal adult, their family situation can change. We want to also teach them how to live independently as possible now that they've gone through this new change and new transition into adulthood.
So another question, what if they are legally an adult, but they function as a 2 to 3-year-old?
We can still work with them. I mean, our job is to provide a service and do what's best for our client. So we still need to work with them to make sure we are setting them up as well as possible.
Absolutely. And I think in a situation like this too, we can involve those stakeholders even more, and they might have specific requests of what they want their child to learn, or specifically maybe a parent wants to work on potty training in a scenario like that. And that is something we can absolutely do.
Okay, next question is, people without intellectual disabilities have the freedom to make their own choices, even if they are bad. What is the difference between the opportunity to choose versus a person? Sorry, let me back up. What is the difference between their opportunity to choose versus a person with an intellectual disability?
I think this one's a little bit more difficult. If you have a neurotypical person who, let's say their brain is forming properly, they may understand the situation a little bit better. With individuals who have intellectual disabilities, we need to make sure that we are providing them all the information on their level. They need to be able to understand what is going on, to understand what is happening.
I would love to jump in here. I just want to point out that I feel like this is where the individualization comes in, and how like scenario specific this could be, because I just feel like it really comes down to if the person is understanding the consequences of their actions or not.
Definitely. And I would like to, let's say the person that's making those choices is a child, but they're neurotypical. We don't always let children that are under 18 make all those decisions on their own either. So that could be the same for people with disabilities as well, like stakeholders, parents. We're all helping make those decisions for either scenario.
And to piggyback on what Sophie said, I mean, there's parents, if you see your child doing something bad, of course you're going to correct it, or something that might endanger them, of course you're going to correct it. But say, for instance, you're out and about and you're a stranger and you see a child doing something that can harm them. Are you going to stand back, or are you going to jump in? You're still providing that input, even though you are not that person's parent, per se.
I think in those cases, you need to see, I have actually done this. You need to see what the parents are okay with. I was at my daughter's track meet once, and I noticed that a child was having some problems. And I could tell that the parents were getting a little frustrated. So I just walked over to the parents and just asked for their consent to be able to play with their child, and kind of deter them away from the behaviors that they were engaging in. And I know that just me going up and asking meant a whole lot to them. They were very against ABA and all of the fun stuff, but they were willing to let me help their child. I've found with having a child on the spectrum that if a parent comes up to me and asks if they can help, generally it's because they don't understand what's going on. And so to make it so that the parents are aware of what you're trying to do, it's always most important to talk to parents before you engage with a child who's under the age of 18.
All right, our last question is, at what point do you consider habilitation services over the right to exercise personal liberties?
I think we would consider this if the client is in any danger or harm. As according to our ethical code, there's a lot of codes that say it a few times that first priority is to do no harm. So if a client is engaging in behaviors that are harmful for them, then I think that would be a reason to provide those services over maybe those personal liberties.
I think we also need to keep in fact where the client is mentally. While they could be an adult, what is their outcome going to be? Are they going to need to have somebody with them all the time? If that is the case, then I absolutely believe that habilitation services should be over the personal liberties because they're always going to need that help.
All right, thank you everybody for watching. That is our presentation.